Tran Nu Min ordered, follow them closely. Notify the surrounding forces, wait for them to reach an uninhabited place, and begin the plan. Immediately their car followed So Min's car. On this side, Tran Nu Min smiled full of intrigue. So Min, I have prepared a huge trap, just waiting for you to jump in. He then loudly ordered his subordinates. Are you all ready? The subordinates loudly said in unison. It's ready, young master. Tran Nu Min proudly started with old master Kyung Gwin and his subordinates to hunt So Min. The people around saw so many people walking and curiously discussed. Whose young master is that, making such a noise? It's normal. Later, when I have money, I will play big like that. That young master is so handsome and so fashionable. Glancing at the group of women admiring Tran Nu Min, Master Kyung Gwin smiled and asked. Young Master Tran, tonight the poor monk, as if understanding what he meant, Tran Nu Min interrupted. Master, don't worry. Once the job is done, I will give you 10 people with good looks and bodies. You can choose. Kyung Gwin happily agreed. Okay. Meanwhile, 3 people from So Min's group went deep into Thap Van Dai Sun Mountain. As she walked, Tu Lin introduced. This is the path opened by the medicine picker. If we go from this side, we will definitely find snakes. After all, snakes are a type of poisonous insect, So Min quickly urged. There's no need to delay, let's go. So Min and Nam Lin moved forward to go deeper into the mountain. They did not know that Tu Lin had secretly taken the phone and hidden it behind his back. She pressed location to notify someone. It turned out that she was also a spy that Tran Nu Min had installed. After sending the location, Tu Lin smiled in a friendly manner. Wait a minute, you two. Let me show you the way. So Min and Nam Lin did not know that they had been sold out, so they just followed Tu Lin. As she walked, Tu Lin asked, I wonder what kind of poisonous snake you two want to find. Although I'm not proficient in Chinese medicine, I understand a little about the animals in the mountains. It's probably for medicine, right? Nam Lin immediately looked alert and asked again. What are you asking this for? Tu Lin explained frantically in confusion. I just wanted to see if I could help you too. Miss Nam, don't worry. Nam Lin went forward and reminded Tu Lin. This poisonous snake is very special. As long as you find it, you can easily recognize it. You just need to follow us. Tu Lin smiled shyly and replied. Okay. She then approached Nam Lin and commented. If I were looking for snakes, I would have gone with a guest who was selling medicinal herbs before. There are many poisonous snakes up ahead, maybe can be found there. After hearing this, Nam Lin did not show any doubt, and asked Tu Lin to lead the way. Tu Lin excitedly walked forward and called out. Let's go. She then secretly flashed a cunning smile. Tu Lin led the two further. She quickly led Nam Lin and So Min into the trap she had prepared. While leading the way, she said, I remember this place seems to often have poisonous snakes. You two will probably find it very quickly, Nam Lin happily suggested. Okay. If you can really find it, my guide fee will increase by 2 points. Tu Lin waved her hand in agreement. That's too embarrassing. I have to try to help everyone more. I must find that poisonous snake. Seeing that the two were walking into his trap, Tu Lin secretly smiled and thought, it seems like the same box. The location is also correct. She suddenly pretended to fall to the ground. Then she stood up and shouted. Everyone come here quickly. There are too many snakes here. Hearing that, Nam Lin and So Min did not have any doubts, immediately rushed over and loudly reminded. Don't move. People are 3 times afraid of snakes. Snakes are 7 times afraid of us. We will get there quickly. Tu Lin looked pleased when he saw the two running into his trap. She said smugly to herself. Okay, that's the place. Seeing that So Min's footsteps were about to step on the trap, she became even more excited. That's the place. Just take 1 step forward. Seeing his prey about to fall into the trap, Tu Lin happily thought. Quickly step down. Suddenly, So Min pulled his legs back and looked Tu Lin straight in the face and said, The acting isn't bad, is it? Tu Lin stood up in panic and asked. Mr. So, what are you saying? So Min took out a coin. He flicked the coin to the ground and said, Still pretending. As soon as the coin fell into the right position, the trap immediately collapsed. So Min said, We recognized you long ago. Tu Lin did not hide it anymore. The girl stood up straight and asked, Mr. So, how can you see that? So Min loudly explained. Normal tour guides will not easily let tourists go to dangerous places. Something happened, your job as a tour guide, you don't want to do it again in your life. But Ms. not only did she dare, but she also enthusiastically helped us find poisonous snakes. In this deep mountain area, it was difficult for her to ensure the safety of tourists. So Min continued in a serious voice. So from the beginning you have planned carefully. Your goal is the 2 of us. Hearing that, Tu Lin laughed out loud. Mr. So is really a smart person, she laughed. Unfortunately, even if you don't fall into the trap, you will still fall for it. Immediately, many of Tran Nu Min's subordinates appeared and surrounded So Min and Nam Lin. Nam Lin turned her head to look and said, So you took us around for a while. You were bribed. Tran Nu Min just appeared at this time. He called out. So Min. His expression was extremely pleased. he said. I finally found you. So Min shrugged in surprise and deliberately asked. Am I already that famous? Did you also come to see me? Being provoked, Tran Nu Min angrily shouted. I cut its neck. Take care of him for me. Immediately the subordinates obeyed the order and shouted. Arrest him. Come on, Tran Nu Min ordered. Don't beat him to death. I want him to live. I have to bring him before him and torture him with every knife. Nam Lin still kept a calm expression. She pressed her back against So Min and said, Do you think more people will be effective? So Min proudly suggested. Senior Sister Luke, there are so many of them. It would be a pity if we didn't take advantage of them. Nam Lin glanced confusedly. What do you want to do? So Min immediately grabbed Nam Lin's hand and called. Follow me. Let's run up the mountain. The first time a handsome guy held her hand, Nam Lin blushed with embarrassment. She looked confusedly at So Min's hand holding her hand. While his sister was confused, So Min used his other hand to knock down a few passers-by and pulled Nam Lin away. A subordinate standing next to Tran Nu Min saw this and shouted loudly. I want to run! Then he tried to take out the gun, but Tran Nu Min gave him a punch on the cheek and shouted. Don't you understand what I said? I want him to live. Then he loudly ordered his subordinates. No one is allowed to shoot. Whoever captures him alive first, this young master will reward 1 million. Hearing the money, the subordinates excitedly shouted. 1,000,000! Come on! I want to capture that kid alive to get 1,000,000. As for Tu Lin, she covered her mouth and smiled and asked Tran Nu Min. Young Master Tran, according to the contract, I revealed their location and led them to the appointed place. What did you say 100,000? Tran Nu Min immediately threw a card on the ground and said. It's inside. Check it yourself. Tu Lin excitedly ran to pick up the card and thanked her. Yes, thank you, young Master Tran. Suddenly, before she could pick up the card, a hand grabbed Tu Lin's stomach, startling her. Master Kyung Guin has been behind since a while ago. He hugged Tu Lin tightly and said proudly. This girl is not bad. The poor monk likes it very much. Tran Nu Min coldly took out a cigarette and said. It's just a woman who has lost her usefulness. Grandmaster can deal with it at will. But if that group can't catch that brat So Min, then we must ask the master to personally take action. Master Kyung Guin raised his hand to caress Tu Lin's cheek and smiled and replied. This is easy. Tu Lin trembled with fear. Don't. She was scared and quickly shouted. I don't need the money anymore, please forgive me. I deserve her betrayal. During this time, those subordinates could not keep up with So Min's movements. They shouted to each other. I can't see them anymore. Find me. They must be around here. So Min and Nam Lin are now hiding in a bush. He whispered. Senior Sister Luke, did you hear that earlier? The leader said we were worth 1 million. Nam Lin whispered a proposal. Then I'll bring you to pay, then exchange money. When the money arrives, you kick them out and run. Nam Lin continued excitedly. After we're done, we'll each get half. So Min was frustrated with his sister's way of making money. You really know how to make money? After joking around with each other a few times like that, Nam Lin seriously asked. No more joking, what are you going to do? If you hide here forever, sooner or later they will find out, So Min calmly replied. No rush. Snakes naturally like to hide. With just the two of us, I don't know when we will find them. There are so many of them, they often dig in this place to the point that chickens fly away. The dog jumped. We can take advantage of the chaos and have hope of finding the dancing snake. After hearing this, Nam Lin also understood and exclaimed in admiration. That's a good idea. Suddenly a scream rang out. Ah, there's a snake. I've been bitten. Immediately So Min cried out. Go! Go and see! Then he and Nam Lin rushed out of their hiding place. Seeing the movement, several of the Tran family's subordinates immediately turned around in surprise. Seeing the two, they cried out. If you still dare to go back, you'll find the door yourself. They rushed forward and shouted. Quickly catch him, quickly! But So Min and Nam Lin combined their swords to defeat all of them. While beating So Min, he shouted. Don't get in the way. Then he looked at the snake that had just bitten the other guy. Realizing that it wasn't the one he was looking for, So Min sighed. Unfortunately, this is a red lotus snake, not what I'm looking for. Suddenly, somewhere else, a scream also rang out. Monster! There's a monster! Nam Lin asked in surprise. Monster? They quickly ran back and saw two people being threatened by a large crested snake roaring. The purple snake looks very similar to the image of the dancing snake that So Min read. So Min excitedly exclaimed. I see, that's it. Two subordinates of the Tran family stood still in fear, trembling. What is this? Quickly open fire! The other guy immediately opened fire and shot the flying snake. Each series of bullets shot into the body of the dancing snake. But it seemed that because of its thick skin, it was not harmed at all. However, it also quickly ran away due to being overwhelmed in numbers. Seeing this, Nam Lin quickly shouted. It wants to escape! So Min quickly shouted. Quickly chase! So Min and Nam Lin quickly rushed after the dancing snake. Behind them are a group of subordinates chasing after them. They shouted. Boy, stop! Stop for me! The flying snake running in front suddenly turned and changed direction. It roared and crawled in another direction. Nam Lin was startled and exclaimed, maybe it wanted to go uphill. I thought snakes wouldn't be able to crawl up the mountain. Who would have thought that the flying snake had indeed crawled up the steep slope without slipping down? Nam Lin looked surprised. Can you really go up? So Min quickly shouted. There's only one chance, Senior Sister Luke, hurry up. Nam Lin listened and immediately nodded. Okay, so the two quickly climbed up the steep slope, chasing the dancing snake. The subordinates below looked shocked. What are those two? Are they Spider-Men? They can still climb up. Quickly think of a way to chase after them. So the dancing snake was crawling up the steep slope to escape. Behind, Nam Lin and So Min quickly climbed up to chase. Below, the subordinates shouted, hurry! Go up, catch him! Nam Lin's footsteps quickly climbed up each rocky rapid. Suddenly she was startled and lost her footing. So Min turned to remind. Senior Sister Luke, be careful. Nam Lin immediately reassured. Don't worry. I am a martial artist at the perfect level. With peace of mind, So Min continued to climb faster. He said, okay, today I must get that green snake. So Min frowned, gritted his teeth, showing determination. Only his courage can save Senior Sister Luke. Below, the Tran family's subordinates were also trying to climb up. They shouted, absolutely cannot stand by and watch tens of thousands run away. Get out of the way, this money is mine. I bet. Suddenly, one man's foot missed a step. He was startled and frightened, losing momentum. Immediately this guy fell down, certain death. The rest of the people, seeing their comrades falling like that, also began to tremble and fear. Seeing that, So Min above immediately said, hey, that group of people don't even need their lives for money anymore. Nam Lin immediately asked. They are for money, why are you risking your life for? So Min turned his head to look, just smiled at Nam Lin without saying anything. Nam Lin saw this and thought to himself. You kid, stop playing with me. At this moment, she was wondering in her heart. Is he really risking his life like that just to treat my Dantian? As she climbed, she wondered to herself, I'm about to turn 24 this year. So Min is only 20. He probably wouldn't like someone that much older than him. While my sister was thinking vaguely, So Min's hand was still climbing step by step. His eyes were filled with determination. Wu Snake, don't dream of escaping. However, when he climbed up, So Min saw the Wu Snake locked inside a large cage. In front there was an expert standing there. It was Kuk Duong. Kuk Duong immediately turned to ask So Min. Are you So Min? So Min climbed up and nodded. Yes. I wonder, who is this person? Why do I always feel like his face is a bit familiar? Furthermore, his aura is also weaker than mine. Kuk Duong turned to look at the dancing snake and continued asking. Do you want this? So Min clasped his hands politely and replied. That's right. I need this snake as a medicine to treat other people's illnesses. I hope Senior will be successful. But Kuk Duong suddenly took out the sword from his back and warned. If you win against me, this snake will be yours. This move made So Min extremely surprised. Kuk Duong pointed the sword at So Min and continued. You've lost, your life belongs to me. After finishing the warning, Kuk Duong pointed his sword towards the sky, creating streams of blue spiritual energy that gathered at the tip of the sword. At the same time, Master Kyung Gwyn finished dealing with the traitor Tu Lin. The old man rubbed his hands, extremely pleased. Tran Nu Min saw that he was done and said, Master, those useless subordinates haven't returned for so long, it seems like a failure. Kyung Gwyn immediately nodded. Give it to the poor monk, but he also made another suggestion. I want a woman by So Min's side. Tran Nu Min smiled cunningly and replied. No problem. As long as we capture So Min, the others will be handled by the master. With young Master Tran's consent, old Kyung Gwyn immediately took action. The old man thought to himself, I'm your disciple. We've been waiting for a long time. Watching the old master leave, Tran Nu Min thought to himself, Obviously, when So Min was still here, he never took action. What a miserable person. If it weren't for your superior martial arts skills, I wouldn't have accepted someone as lustful as you. He clenched his fist and smiled cunningly. After dealing with So Min, I will go to the Wu family. I must make the Wu family's granddaughter kneel in front of me and be my slave. During this time, Kuk Duong was rushing to attack So Min. He stabbed his sword straight at So Min. So Min felt confused, so he dodged the sword and wondered. Senior, you and I have no enmity or hatred. Why are you making things difficult for me? Kuk Duong still pointed the blade at So Min and shouted. Kuk Am is my younger brother. That night at the Truong family, you broke Kuk Am's face. This is the reason. So Min then remembered that Kuk Am was the one who injured Vu Lam Lam. Kuk Duong did not say much more. He rushed in with murderous intent, intending to take So Min's life. Kuk Duong shouted. I have to kill you. Blood debt must be paid with blood. So Min now understood and immediately bent down to dodge the sword. His hands were channeling energy into his fists. He punched Kuk Duong in the abdomen. Kuk Duong quickly backed away to avoid So Min's move. At this moment, he began to realize the strength of the person opposite him and thought to himself, true chi great perfection. No wonder Kuk Am could lose to him. So-min also spoke up to clarify. Senior, I see that your moves are powerful and powerful. They are not evil, they are different from your younger brother. You still don't know right from wrong, don't let that happen. Taken advantage of by bad guys. Hearing that, Kuk Duong shouted. Bad person? Didn't my younger brother die at your hands? At this time, Nam Lin had also climbed up. She asked So-min. Junior brother, where is Vu Xe? So-min immediately pointed at Kuk Duong and explained. This senior, because of the previous feud, sought revenge on me, so he arrested Vu Xe first. Nam Lin turned to look at the person in front of him and was surprised. Is it him? So-min nodded. That's right. Nam Lin immediately took a stance and suggested. Then don't waste any more words. Defeat him and get the Vu Xe. Kuk Duong waved his sword and announced. My Tia Not sword sect does not hit girls. I still hope that young lady will back down. Being looked down upon, Nam Lin rushed up and threw his fist at Kuk Duong and shouted. Who are you looking down on? Kuk Duong coldly raised his hand to block the punch and gently replied. Please calm down, young lady. I just want revenge on So-min. I don't want to attack you. Seeing Kuk Duong like that, So-min thought to himself. This person has an upright temperament, unlike the guy Kuk Am who held Vu Lam Lam and Na Na hostage. So-min frowned and said to himself. Maybe there is still a chance to change the situation. Thinking so, So-min clasped his hands and explained. Senior, your younger brother taught the enemy and did not hesitate to bully his daughter. Furthermore, he also abused illegal drugs. At that time, I was also forced to the limit by him. Because I can save people, I reluctantly act. Hearing that, Kuk Duong stopped and asked in surprise. What did you say? Is that really the case? So-min nodded firmly. If Senior doesn't believe it, he can personally go investigate. He doesn't respect morality, and even makes me think that Tian Na Kin Man is some kind of pagan demon. There, Kuk Duong was angry and shouted. Nonsense! My Tian Not sword sect passed down from our ancestors has begun to be famous as a righteous path. Kuk Am encountered something bad. I will definitely investigate. So-min still stood there respectfully listening to Kuk Duong. Kuk Duong approached, raised his sword to So-min's neck and threatened. If even half of what you say is false, even if you run to the ends of the earth, I will still find you and kill you. So-min still stood still, not afraid, and replied. If you tell a lie, Senior, just deal with it. Suddenly a loud voice came from the air. Donor Kuk, don't believe what they say. A stick suddenly crashed into the ground from the air. Landing there was old Master Kyung Nguyen. He strongly landed and said, Killing for life is natural. The old man clasped Amitabha Buddha's hands and pretended to tease. Donor Kuk, I think you already understand this principle, right? Kuk Duong turned and replied. Master, what you said is right. But does everything that happens have a cause? I need to investigate. So-min looked at the person who had just landed and thought to himself. Who is this old monk? The aura is so strong. This realm has clearly surpassed the true aura realm, reaching the sea aura realm. Nam Lin also recognized his strength. She glanced at So-min and thought to herself, although the Chi Si realm and the true Chi realm of perfection are only one step apart, this one step is like heaven and earth. Just relying on So-min and myself is absolutely not his opponent. Observing him a little more, Nam Lin felt something familiar. She asked herself, but why does this person give me a very familiar feeling? My body involuntarily chills. I've clearly never met this guy before. Old Master Kyung Nguyen then turned to look at Nam Lin and said, Humph, young lady of that Tan Tong, this poor monk has been waiting for you for a long time. As he spoke, he exuded some kind of red aura. Immediately that flow of air flew into Nam Lin's body, causing her to fall to her knees. The flow of air attacked Nam Lin's stomach straight, making her scream in pain. Unable to bear it, Nam Lin collapsed, forcing So-min to run back to help her. He called out worriedly. Sister! As if realizing, So-min shouted. Spell! Are you the one who cast the spell on senior sister Luke? The old monk Kyung Nguyen did not hide it but proudly confirmed. Yes, it is the poor monk. 5 years ago, she and another woman were in the hermitage practicing merit, and the poor monk was also there. It's just convenient. Looking at Nam Lin in pain, the old monk smiled triumphantly. I didn't expect this spell to go so deep. Truly God helped me. Behind him, Kuk Duong stared at the old monk and said to himself. 5 years ago, I poisoned a young girl. This monk is definitely not a good person. So-min stood up, observed the situation and said to himself. This place cannot stay any longer. He reminded himself. He had to grab the dancing snake first, take Luke Su Tai with him and leave, then talk later. After that, So-min went into attack mode. Seeing that So-min had such an intention, old Kyung Nguyen laughed. Boy, if you want to steal things from a poor monk, you are too honest. Then he rushed forward and swung his staff towards So-min. His entire body radiated red aura of fire. The old man reached out his flaming hand to grab So-min's neck with bloodshot eyes. So Min quickly retreated to avoid the move. Luckily he was able to dodge in time, otherwise he would have been crushed like the ground. So Min took a stance and thought to himself, it is indeed Chi Hai Ken. The method he used just now to control the true Chi in that staff was far beyond the level of the true Chi realm. Old Kyungwin stuck his staff into the ground and continued to threaten. You rotten brat, I have to save your sister's life. I need to use it tonight. But you, of course it must die. After he finished speaking, the power of his magnetic power radiated, completely overwhelming So Min. Then he pointed the flaming staff at So Min. A move shot out. It created an explosion right where So Min was. However, he quickly dodged it. So Min jumped up and threw out a series of needles in response. The old monk swung his staff and destroyed all of So Min's needles. The old man looked disdainful. Flying needles? You still know how to use hidden weapons. Unfortunately, you can't do anything to me. Suddenly, So Min approached him at some point. He stood in front of the old man and rummaged in his pocket for something. Seeing that So Min dared to confront him, the old monk was proud. Yo! Found the poor monk in front of me. The old man immediately swung his staff in an attempt to take So Min's life. While making the move, he shouted loudly. Poor monk, let you go peacefully. Amit Babuddha. But he was so busy attacking that he was subjective and didn't bother to defend. So Min waved a series of needles at the old man from below. The needles attacked from close range, leaving him unable to react. They stabbed straight into the old monk's eyes, causing him to hold his face in pain and cry out. What is this? Taking advantage of the opportunity, So Min quickly overtook him and thought to himself. He was originally prepared to deal with the quicklime of poisonous snakes, but now he had to use it. So Min was determined to seize this opportunity and rushed towards Kuk Duong and the cage holding Vu Exe. Kuk Duong is now raising his sword to block Vu Exe's cage, preventing anyone from approaching. He stood there staring murderously, looking at So Min. So Min gritted his teeth, certain that this time he could not avoid a battle. Suddenly, when So Min approached, Kuk Duong took his sword back and said, You go. Wait for me to investigate clearly before continuing. This made So Min quite surprised. He quickly reached into the dragon's cage. So Min sucked the snake bile into his hand and said to himself, Let's get Vu Exe's snake bile first. Then quickly find a quiet place to help senior sister Luke drink it. After taking it, So Min turned around and ran away, not forgetting to thank Kuk Duong. Thank you, senior. So Min quickly grabbed Nam Lin to run away. He told her, Senior sister Luke, hold on so I can help you. While helping Nam Lin up, So Min said, Now I will take you to a private place for treatment. Kuk Duong was still deep in thought and quietly watched the two of them leave. The old monk's eyes were also gradually recovering. The old man angrily asked Kuk Duong, Where are those two rotten people? Kuk Duong immediately pointed in the opposite direction and said, Run over there. Old monk Kyungwin immediately proposed to Kuk Duong, Don't dream of being able to escape, Kuk benefactor. Quickly follow them with me. But Kuk Duong shook his head and refused. He replied, There's no rush. We have to clarify the situation first. Why did my younger brother die? Then he called out, Come here, young Master Tran. Hearing the call, Tran Nu Min immediately stepped forward. He smiled proudly. Mr. Kuk really has good eyesight. But I'm afraid I've been fooled by a kid, Kuk Duong coldly replied. I also know a little about the personality of that kid Kuk Am. Now I just need you to tell me, why did the Trong family come to him in the first place? I couldn't find him. A martial arts master like him. He spoke seriously and threatened. You can't come to him just to protect your home. Tran Nu Min cleared his throat and replied. Cough. This is a very long story. Then he began to explain. Initially, my cousin Truong Tian was bullied by So Min. It was with great reluctance that I invited Mr. Kuk Am to take action. But unfortunately, that guy So Min's tricks were too cruel. Tran Nu Min shouted, shamelessly lying. Mr. Kuk clearly acted righteously, but someone else planned to frame him. After hearing this, Kuk Duong bowed his head and said, So that's it. He crossed his arms and said coldly, If my younger brother has acted righteously, then death is his own choice. He cannot resent others. Having finished speaking, Kuk Duong turned around to leave. Tran Nu Min shouted sarcastically, Don't you want to avenge your younger brother? As a sect leader of Tian Not Kim sect, you can't avenge your blood and flesh? Kuk Duong angrily turned around, pointed his sword at Tran Nu Min and shouted. Enough, he sternly warned Tran Nu Min. Kuk Am and I grew up together. I don't even know what kind of person he is. Will he help others? Kuk Duong put the blade closer to Tran Nu Min's neck and said, Today, if I didn't help you clearly, I would also become a person like him. Finally, he shouted. Tian Not Sword Gate is completely destroyed. Behind him, the old monk Kyungwin interrupted. Amit Babuddha. Why should Don Kuk care about a false name? If he killed your younger brother, you would kill him. It wouldn't be fun. Star? Kuk Duong turned around and shouted at the old monk. Monks are indifferent between good and evil, extremely cruel. You are not worthy to talk to me. Being scolded, The old monk was startled and looked uncomfortable. Kuk Duong then took his sword back and affirmed, "I will investigate this feud of Tian Nak Kim sect myself." He then turned around and left and said, "This is it." Behind, Tran Nu Min trembled with fear and anger. He shouted loudly, "You stubborn thing! If you win, you will be king. If you lose, you will be the enemy. I don't understand this logic." Old Kyung Gwyn next to him added, "Many people think that they are just like that. My master is the same, so I did not hesitate to smash his head." The old man then happily closed his eyes and reassured Tran Nu Min. "Young Master Tran, rest assured. If the poor monk takes action, that brat won't be able to escape." Tran Nu Min happily turned back and replied, "So it's been hard for the master. After this is successful, the original salary will double." Hearing that, the old monk happily ran away and said, Okay, refreshed." After the old monk left, Tran Nu Min called his father and angrily shouted, "Damn old man, you invited Kuk Duong to no avail. Quickly send all the Tran family's elite troops here. So Min, he must die here. If he survives and returns to the Vu family, the Tran family will be dead." Meanwhile, So Min was carrying Nam Lin to find a secluded place to heal his wound. As he walked, he wondered, is there a place to hide nearby? Suddenly he glanced at a place overgrown with grass. He wondered, the forest and grass over there were so overgrown, it was not at all like the surroundings. There must be caves. So Min carried Nam Lin to check, and there was indeed a cave. Carrying Nam Lin deep inside, So Min gently said, "Sister Luke, lie down and wait a moment." As he walked, he reassured her, "I will treat you right away." At this time, Nam Lin also woke up and slowly opened his eyes. Yet she fell into a hallucination due to the spell being too strong. In Nam Lin's eyes at this moment, countless dark purple lights and demon hands were waiting to tear her apart. Nam Lin was startled and asked herself, "Am I not living with my little junior brother in the 100,000 Great Mountain? What is this?" She quickly struggled to push those arms away and shouted, "You kids also want to harm me?" Knowing that his sister was hallucinating, So Min quickly held her hand tightly. He loudly reassured, "Senior Sister Luke, calm down. The spell in your dantian is working. Everything seen now is an illusion." He brought the snake honey closer to Nam Lin and told her, "You swallow the snake honey first." But Nam Lin was so scared that he waved his hand to brush away the snake bile and shouted, "Poison! Devil, go away!" The snake bile fell out of So Min's hand and flew back, causing him to startle and cry out, "Not good." Afraid that it would break and lose its medicinal properties, So Min quickly caught it and said, "Phew! If snake bile falls to the ground, the medicinal properties will lose up to 1/3 of its effectiveness." He looked at Nam Lin, who was still scared of everything, and thought to himself, "Looks like we have to use another method." So Min had to take the snake bile pill into his mouth. As soon as he put it in his mouth, he exclaimed, "It's so bitter." Then he silently apologized to Nam Lin, "Sister Luke, you offended me." Then he grabbed her hand. So Min leaned closer and gave his senior sister a kiss to put the snake bile into her mouth in the most romantic way. Receiving the kiss, Nam Lin swallowed snake bile into her stomach. She then woke up and realized that So Min had just finished kissing her. Her body began to relax, and then the snake bile pill immediately took effect. Nam Lin's body immediately reacted, making her feel pain. So Min calmly reassured, "Senior Sister Luke, hold on a bit. I will use needles to guide your energy." He took a needle and used his spiritual energy to pour it into it. The needle was inserted into Nam Lin's body and immediately took effect. Her body gradually calmed down and no longer felt pain. Seeing this, So Min was extremely happy. Success. The first step of the spell has been removed, and the first layer of the defense has been broken. At the same time, the Tran family's subordinates also found them in the deep cave. They called out to each other, "Found it, over here." Seeing this, So Min was worried. "It's not good, it was discovered so quickly." The rotten old monk also found the place. The old man said proudly, "Boy, as long as you touch the poor monk's spell, I will be able to follow this aura to find your whereabouts." A subordinate quickly warned, "Master, this cave is too narrow. That brat has cruel tricks. If we go in, we will definitely be seriously harmed." The old monk frowned and replied, "Idiot! What are you doing in there? Setting them on fire to burn them to ashes." The old man laughed proudly. "If we don't get out, we'll burn them to death inside." Ha! Hearing that, the subordinates immediately expressed joy. Master is wise. So, following the old monk's orders, his subordinates quickly poured gasoline into the cave entrance. While pouring them, they urged each other, "Hurry, hurry. Come here." When finished, the old monk smiled maliciously and ordered, "Light the fire." A subordinate immediately used a gun to shoot at the pile of gasoline that had just been poured. The fire immediately burned fiercely. The fire grew bigger and bigger, burning fiercely. Looking at the cave being engulfed by fire, the old monk smiled triumphantly. "Ha ha! Poor monk wants to see how long the disciples of the Seven Saints sect can persevere." At this time, So Min also realized their sinister plot. Nam Lin is in a coma. She started coughing due to the smoke inhalation. So Min was extremely panicked. He was afraid that Nam Lin would be suffocated if this happened. So, regaining composure, he tried to moisten this ground first. So Min quickly searched his bag. He took out a wet towel and moistened the area. Then he placed the towel over Nam Lin's mouth so she wouldn't be suffocated. Looking at his comatose sister, So Min thought to himself, I can only deal with it for a while, not a long-term plan. So Min also quickly used another damp towel to cover his mouth. In his mind, he was thinking of a solution. Senior Sister Luke is now unable to move, and there is no way for me to go deep inside this cave to check. If outsiders come in here, Senior Sister Luke will be in danger. Then So Min suddenly had an idea. If he wanted to break through this siege, he could only use the Taoism that his 7th master taught him. He began to recall the magic that his 7th master had taught him. You brat, if you want to use my moves, you must be able to break the second seal. Master had instructed So Min very carefully. Great techniques were no longer abnormal if the body was not strong. As he instructed, he swung the axe. Then, he saw his master swing the axe down on the log, cut it in half and said, if you don't release the seal, you won't be able to resist the backlash. So Min must solve the second seal to be able to use the great magic. You have solved the first problem. Now you need to solve the second problem. Fortunately, Nam Lin carried a talisman to dispel the seal. Looking at Nam Lin who was unconscious, he thought to himself, I can only find it in my sister. Having no other choice, So Min had to reach out and find the talisman on Nam Lin's body. While searching, he said to himself, after my sister wakes up, I will definitely make amends with her. Searching for a while, So Min found the talisman. Suddenly he realized that someone outside was using true energy to fan the fire. That's right. Outside, the old monk was using his true energy to fan the fire. The fire immediately flared up fiercely. The old monk proudly exclaimed, I don't believe you haven't come out yet. The burning fire made Nam Lin and So Min inside feel like they were hanging by a thread. So Min still calmly held the talisman in his mouth. He clasped his hands and shouted, seal. Then So Min slammed his hands together and shouted, dispel. Outside, the Tran family's subordinates were cheering. Ha! As expected of a great master. With this fire, even if there is a water dragon inside, it will turn into stewed soup. We'll rush in there later. Whoever catches that kid first will give 1 million to that person. Suddenly, something happened in the cave that made the old monk feel guilty. The ground started to shake. The subordinates frantically asked each other, what happened? It seems like the sound came from inside the cave. Suddenly, from inside the cave, a large whirlpool rushed out, extinguishing the fire. The old monk was startled and exclaimed, this? It's impossible. The subordinates were submerged in the huge whirlpool and shouted, where is the water so big? Is there really a water dragon in the cave? A few people who couldn't swim drowned in that large whirlpool. Why is there such a whirlpool? Is there really a water dragon? Let's go back a few minutes. So Min, after removing the second level of seal, broke through. From the true Qi realm of great perfection, So Min broke through to the Si Qi realm. He slowly opened his eyes and large whirlpools of water appeared around him. After the breakthrough, So Min stood there strong and courageous. Immediately he raised his hand and shouted loudly, Kandi Kam Dong! A large water dragon appeared around So Min's body. So Min continued to shout, what a monster! So Min raised his hand and chanted the mantra. Water rises. Successfully casting water magic, So Min sighed and said, success. Then he quickly hugged Nam Lin and said to himself, next, let's rely on this move to get out. Back to the present. The Tran family's subordinates are gradually drowning and constantly calling for help. That person, So Min, swam in the water and escaped. Suddenly a loud voice rang out. You rotten boy, where are you going? Realizing that it was the old monk's voice, So Min said to himself, oh, it's okay. The old monk was of course not submerged by the large water current. The old man stood on a tree branch and shouted loudly, with just this little bit of skill, do you think you can escape from the hands of this poor monk? Then he triumphantly shouted, go to death! Immediately after that, he brought down his staff and unleashed a fatal skill to kill both of them. So Min was underwater, unable to execute a countermeasure. He could only grit his teeth and hug Nam Lin tightly to endure the battle. But suddenly, a ray of green light appeared, blocking the old monk's move. That is Kuk Duong's blade. From the beginning, Kuk Duong saved the lives of So Min and Nam Lin. He used all his strength to block the old monk's fatal blow. Realizing that Kuk Duong had saved So Min and Nam Lin, the old monk shouted, Kuk Duong! You are the one who eats apple trees and fences with fig trees! Using his body to block the old monk's head, Kuk Duong glanced at So Min and signaled him to leave quickly. Without delay, So Min turned around and swam away, not forgetting to say, thank you, senior, for saving my life. Leaving Kuk Duong behind to block the situation, So Min carried Nam Lin ashore. After getting ashore, So Min gently put Nam Lin down and thought to himself, I have swum to a very far place. This place is probably safe. Then So Min was startled to realize that Nam Lin had fallen into a coma and could no longer suffocate. Her belly was bulging because it was filled with water. He used spiritual energy to push the water out of Nam Lin's stomach. After Nam Lin's mouth spat out all the water, So-min sighed. Phew, it's done. Seeing that his senior sister seemed to be okay, So-min stood up and thought to himself, it would take another minute for the sixth senior sister to wake up on her own. I have to go help Senior Kuk-duong. That ferocious monk is, after all, a member of the Chi-Hai realm. He turned around and left, his heart filled with determination. He must eliminate that monk, not leaving any trouble behind. What's more, he almost killed Senior Sister Luke. Absolutely cannot ignore him. At this time, the battle between Kuk-duong and Old Kyung-gwyn was going on intensely. Kuk-duong is of course weaker. Old Kyung-gwyn smiled proudly. With your strength, you dare to fight with a poor monk? Kuk-duong trembled weakly as Old Kyung-gwyn grabbed his collar and lifted him up. Old Kyung-gwyn looked disdainful. Just a sect leader of Tien Not Sword sect? Old man Kyung-gwyn looked at the weak Kuk-duong and laughed. It's really not even worth a blow. Suddenly, a blue light rushed from behind. Old Kyung-gwyn was suddenly startled, not understanding what was coming. Realizing that it was So-min, Old Kyung-gwyn laughed loudly. The trick repeated the second time is useless against the poor monk. Old Kyung-gwyn still held Kuk-duong's collar with one hand and swung his staff with the other to block So-min's attack. But then he was surprised when he realized that the force this time was too strong. He was forced to release Kuk-duong to step back to avoid the attack. So-min clenched his fist and threatened. Crazy monk! You cursed my senior sister, almost costing us our lives. So-min's face was extremely angry. He warned seriously. This debt should be accounted for. Realizing So-min's strength, Old Kyung-gwyn wondered in surprise. Just a few moments ago, the power of this kid's silver needle has increased again. What happened in the end? The old man turned to look at Kuk-duong, who was kneeling down, and came up with a plan. Take that guy hostage first, and talk later. Thinking so, he rushed towards Kuk-duong and shouted. Get over here! So-min angrily waved his hand and shouted. Don't even dream of touching Senior Kuk-duong. Your opponent is me. Seeing that So-min's tone was so loud, Old Kyung-gwyn shouted. You rotten boy, don't think that if you have a chance, you can win against a poor monk. Then he swung his staff towards So-min. So-min also quickly shot needles in response. Seeing the small needles, Old Kyung-gwyn looked disdainful. Foolish. Do you think I will fall into your trap twice? But he did not know that So-min had another plan. He smiled smugly. I don't expect you to get hit. Just mess up your defense and that's it. Then So-min approached and gave the old monk a punch to the chest. The old monk was hit, and blood spewed out from his mouth. The old man's face looked extremely shocked. The old man knelt down, clutching his chest and trembling, wondering. With this force, how can you reach the Chi-Si realm? Just now you were clearly still in the true Chi realm, So-min coldly replied. I just regained some of my strength. Then he performed the move, summoning a blue orb in his hand. Although the ball is small, it contains immense power. The spiritual energy radiating from it completely overwhelmed the old monk. So-min coldly announced. You should finish it. Suddenly a voice rang out from afar. Stop! This voice startled both So-min and Old Kyung-gwyn. That was the voice coming from Tran Tien-hung, the head of the Tran family. He led a group of people and threatened. Boy, don't move. You are surrounded by us. Immediately a large number of people surrounded So-min. The old monk wiped his mouth and smiled smugly. Haha, Patriarch Tran came at just the right time. The old man stood up and said to So-min. You are So-min, right? As expected of a disciple of those old ghosts. In a breakthrough battle, this poor monk has never heard of it. Unfortunately, today you have to die. Here. I wonder how that old lady will cry. Ha! So-min heard that and wondered. Old lady? Are you talking about my master Luke? What enmity do you have with her, that you want to harm my sister for so many years? Only then did Old Kyung-gwyn explain. I had already reached the Chi-Si realm 20 years ago. The ancient martial arts world of China was already in my hands. Reflecting on the past, Old Kyung-gwyn continued. But one day, I was playing with a girl. That old lady also passed by and made a move to seriously injure my Dantian. Indeed, because he saw this old master Kyung-gwyn teasing the daughter of a good family, So-min's sixth master took action to disturb this old master Kyung-gwyn's Dantian. That's why he hasn't been able to increase his cultivation level in the past few years. The old man laughed happily and continued. Fortunately, God did not disappoint me and let me accidentally meet her disciple again. I wanted to let her taste the suffering that I had experienced, taste it. The feeling of being unable to do anything of a martial arts genius, haha. After explaining, he approached So-min and smiled menacingly. And you, her descendant, should be dead now. How refreshing. But before he could react, So-min suddenly punched him in the middle of his chest. So-min's face when he took action was still very cold. So-min's punch went straight through Mr. Kyung-wen's chest. The old monk was so surprised and bewildered that he blurted out. You, how dare you? So-min said coldly. At first, Master Sixth was kind enough to save your life. As a result, you didn't know how to value it. Then don't blame me. Tran Tianheng cried out in panic. Master Kyung Gwyn! Then he ordered his subordinates to open fire to avenge the old monk. The subordinates obeyed the order and immediately launched a series of bullets towards So-min. So-min dodged the move and turned around, releasing a series of needles in response. He jumped up to avoid the bullets being fired at him. From the air, So-min threw another series of needles towards the Tran family. Several subordinates were stabbed by needles and were immediately paralyzed, unable to move. They yelled at the sky, but didn't know what this was. All of the Tran family's henchmen were paralyzed. Their necks were both numb and itchy while standing among them. Tran Tianheng did not understand what had just happened. He quickly ordered his subordinates. What's going on? Get up for me. Suddenly, Tran Tianheng was immediately stabbed by So-min with a needle in the middle of his neck. He immediately fell down, his body paralyzed. He asked in panic, What's going on? So-min coldly approached and said, I'm sorry, that needle is yours. He pulled the needle back and said, I stuck it in the right place. The subordinates saw that Tran Tianheng was dead and immediately exclaimed in panic. The homeowner is dead. That kid killed the entire homeowner. So-min coldly turned around and threatened the rest. If you also want to die, I can fulfill it for you. So they immediately ran away in disarray. As they ran, they shouted loudly. Don't fight anymore, run quickly. The homeowner is already dead, why risk your life anymore? So-min, after finishing the matter, came closer to help Kuk Duong up. So-min gently touched Kuk Duong's neck and treated him. Immediately, Kuk Duong vomited fresh blood. Seeing this, So-min panicked and asked, Senior, what's wrong with you? Kuk Duong waved his hand to signal that it was okay and replied, Don't worry, I can't die. So-min looked worried about Kuk Duong. Meanwhile, Kuk Duong also observed So-min and thought to himself, Even if you are a true martial artist, when faced with such hot weapons, it will be difficult to escape. This kid is much stronger than I thought. His character is not bad, his martial arts are excellent, he is definitely trustworthy. Regaining his composure, Kuk Duong then asked clearly, Tell me, what happened to you and my younger brother Kuk Am? So-min immediately proposed. Okay. But this is a very long story. Now I have to return to senior sister Luke's side. Let's talk as we walk. As for Namlin, she is still unconscious at this time. Tran Nu Min and his subordinates were still searching very close to where she lay. One guy said to young Master Tran, Young Master, I saw with my own eyes that kid carrying this girl and running towards this side. Tran Nu Min immediately replied, If you dare to deceive me, I will show you my hand. Suddenly, a loud noise made everyone startled. Tran Nu Min asked in surprise, What's going on? Something happened over at that old man's place. Could it be that So-min, that brat, is back again? The subordinate immediately reassured. Young master, don't worry. There is Master Kyung Gwyn there. Even if So-min returns, he will only have to die. We have to find that girl first. Are you still afraid that So-min won't be convinced? Tran Nu Min immediately patted his subordinate's shoulder and praised. You kid has a smart mind. When you return to Zhang Chao, this young master will give you envelope 998. The subordinate was happy. Thank you, young master. And then after a while of searching, they discovered the place where Nam Lin was unconscious. The subordinate immediately pointed in that direction and said, Young master, look, that girl is over there. Tran Nu Min immediately ordered. Put it up. He looked at Nam Lin and showed a perverted look. This girl doesn't look bad. Tran Nu Min calmly smoked and ordered his subordinates. Tie it up for me. Wait until Master Kyung Gwyn gets bored. Let's try it. The subordinate immediately obeyed the order. They rushed forward and raised their hands towards Nam Lin. But suddenly a series of blue lights rushed in, causing them to scream in pain. Ah, Huda! All of the subordinates were stabbed in the back of their necks with needles and immediately fell unconscious, causing Tran Nu Min to panic. What's going on? So-min has arrived. He said in a serious voice. Don't you dare touch my Luke Su's sister. His face showed anger. He warned Tran Nu Min. You all must die. Tran Nu Min was scared. His whole body trembled. He asked himself. What's going on? How could this kid appear here? Where is Master Kyung Gwyn? Where is our old man? Could it be that this kid has solved everything? He immediately ordered the remaining subordinates. Shoot him for me. Regardless of life or death. Kill him, each person will be rewarded 5 million. So the remaining subordinates simultaneously opened fire towards So-min. So-min still kept a calm expression. With agile movements, he gently dodged the series of bullets fired at him and rushed forward. As he rushed forward, So-min told himself, the Sea Realm's energy can freely control true energy. All of it is concentrated on his feet, and he can speed up to extraordinary realms. Several subordinates saw So-min's lightning speed and were startled to exclaim. What's going on? They were extremely panicked when not a single bullet hit So-min. They couldn't understand whether So-min was a human or a ghost. However, blinded by money, his subordinates were still determined to take So-min's life to get a big reward. As for Tran Nu Min, he ran away with his tail between his legs, thinking to himself. I can't stay here anymore. I have to hurry back to Zhangchao. I have to go back to the Tran family. However, how could he run away with So Min? So Min shouted in a serious voice. Run? Immediately, a beam of blue light flashed past and hit Tran Nu Min's feet, causing him to stumble. He fell down, crying out, "My leg! Why can't my leg move anymore?" The remaining subordinates were also completely paralyzed by So Min's needles. Their arms and legs cannot move. They couldn't move, so they panicked. What's going on? So Min approached Tran Nu Min and threatened. I know your Tran family and the Truong family are one family. I have already taken care of the Truong family, so it's convenient to send your Tran family away. So Min's face was filled with murderous intent, and he warned. That's also because the Truong family was rude to my 7th senior sister first. If you hadn't come to find me, you could still be the eldest young master of the Tran family. Tran Nu Min was extremely scared at this time. He shouted, forgive me. I swear I won't cause you any more trouble. Everything that happened before is erased. He also loudly proposed. All the Tran family's assets can be given to you. As long as you keep my life. Hearing that, So Min asked again. That's a good suggestion. Taking over your Tran family, I will at least become a billionaire, right? The name Tran Nu Min sounded like he had grabbed a steak. He trembled and stammered. Yes. My Tran family has a lot of money. In Zhangchao, we are only behind the 3 families. As long as you agree to spare me, all of that is yours. But he did not expect that So Min did not need those things. He grinned. But, I refuse. As soon as the words ended, a series of needles pierced Tran Nu Min's vital point. Tran Nu Min could only roll his eyes and say his last words. Why? Then he also collapsed. So Min turned around and said coldly. When you had evil thoughts about my senior sister Luke, you are already dead. After resolving everything, So Min bent down and reached out to Nam Lin. He was considerate and gently carried her in his arms. Looking at Nam Lin sleeping soundly, So Min smiled and said, Sister, the matter has been resolved. He carried her out of the forest and said, We can go home now. Nam Lin was gradually waking up. She slightly opened her eyes to look at So Min and felt happiness in her heart. Suddenly, she felt like she had a boy to rely on. That's good. Sometime later, at Miao Province Airport, Kuk Duong, after understanding everything, spoke up. Thank you, Brother So, for explaining the situation to me clearly. My younger brother is truly a person without integrity. Having finished speaking, Kuk Duong bowed his head in apology and greeted. It's troublesome for Brother So. Farewell. So Min also bowed in response. Looking at Kuk Duong's leaving back, Nam Lin smiled and said, That is an elegant and upright person. So Min smiled and replied, People who learn martial arts must first cultivate their minds. Otherwise, everyone will use force to break the law. Using force to oppress others is a violation of the original purpose of learning martial arts. Hearing that, Nam Lin bowed her head and looked at So Min wondering. So have the masters ever taught people how to learn martial arts? So Min truly replied. Senior sister, the masters have taught me this. He smiled triumphantly. They teach people who learn martial arts to have wives and concubines in groups, and to have many children and grandchildren. Hearing this sentence, Nam Lin turned pale as if dumbfounded. Which master taught you these things? Seeing his senior sister leave angrily, So Min quickly apologized. Senior sister Luke, I was just joking. The two then boarded a plane to return to Zhangchao. The chief flight attendant announced when the plane was about to take off. Everyone, please tighten your seat belts. After the plane took off, Nam Lin turned to ask So Min. The head of the Tran family is no longer there. Our family must have had many changes. Are you still in contact with the Wu family? So Min immediately wondered. Not for the time being? What's wrong? Nam Lin immediately reminded. You'd better let the Wu family take over everything from the Tran family at this time. Only on the back road can we go. Hearing this, So Min was extremely confused. Why? I just want to find other senior sisters, remove the seal, and also want to start a sect for our 7 Saints sect. At this time, Nam Lin told a shocking truth. My 5 senior sisters are now in the Vang family, the second largest family in Zhangchao. Furthermore, she must have considered me an enemy. Hearing this, So Min was surprised and asked, An enemy? Why? Nam Lin immediately advised. This matter cannot be explained clearly in a few sentences. In short, you must quickly cultivate your power. She also told me one more important thing. 5th senior sister will cause big trouble for you. A short time later in Zhangchao, Vu Lam Lam's phone suddenly rang. It was So Min calling. Seeing So Min's call, Vu Lam Lam was very happy. She thought to herself. He finally called me. Immediately she stood up and said to her friend next to her. Julie, I have to go first. Please help me copy the lesson for next class. Love you. Seeing Vu Lam Lam like that, the girl Julie next to her looked puzzled. Ah? You've never skipped class before? Vu Lam Lam blinked mischievously. It seems like she is drowning in love. Vu Lam Lam quickly left the classroom and answered So Min's phone call. She was so engrossed that she passed by the young master of the Vang family without realizing it. Furthermore, she said loudly. So Min, are you looking for me? The royal family's young master, Van Tri Vu, glanced at Vu Lam Lam when he saw that she dared to call another man's name. Hearing the name So Min, Van Tri Vu was suddenly startled. The two subordinates behind heard this name, and immediately explained. Young master, I heard that the person who destroyed the Truong family seems to be named So Min. It has long been spread among the families of Zhang Chao. Vu family had the help of a genius teenager. Du Vu Lam must have gone to see him. Hearing that, Van Tri Vu felt uncomfortable in his heart. Although the engagement between the Vang family and the Vu family was not yet public for the time being, the matter of the two families getting married had already been decided. Apparently he had secretly agreed to marry Vu Lam Lam to him, but now he invited a martial arts expert. What does the Vu family actually mean? Van Tri Vu immediately ordered two of his subordinates to follow Vu Lam Lam. As he walked, Van Tri Vu said, I have to see who the name So Min is that can make the Vu family dare to brag like that. A while later, at the fast food restaurant, looking at So Min eating deliciously, Vu Lam Lam laughed happily. You really don't get bored no matter how much you eat. Waiting for So Min to finish chewing the cake, Vu Lam Lam began to ask. Why did you suddenly invite me out here? Aren't you busy with something? So Min finished chewing the cake and said. Oh yes. I almost forgot about the main thing because of fried chicken. So Min held the cake in his hand and instructed. Go back and tell Vu Lao Jia so he can quickly swallow the Tran family. Hearing that, Vu Lam Lam looked worried. Tran family? They are the fourth family only after the Vu family. Isn't it easy to touch them? So Min immediately explained. It's not that I'm afraid. The head of the Tran family has already been dealt with by me. This time they secretly ambushed me and invited assistance. But in the end they were betrayed by me and senior sister Luke. Close. Hearing that, Vu Lam Lam was extremely surprised and couldn't believe his ears. Ah? You're not kidding, are you? So Min nodded and reminded. Of course not. You must act quickly. Seventh sister said that if news of the destruction of the Tran family's central power spreads, the Tran family's inheritance will be destroyed. Not sure who it belongs to. Du Vu Lam immediately took out the phone to call his grandfather. Having finished speaking, So Min yawned. He stretched and said, I'm done talking. So I'll go first. I came to find you as soon as I got off the plane. I'm so tired. Hearing that, Vu Lam Lam was a little disappointed. Did you just say that? Suddenly, So Min was stunned as if he had just remembered something. He immediately sat down and said, Oh yes. There's also this. Vu Lam Lam immediately looked excited. Tell me. So Min immediately asked Vu Lam Lam. Du Vu Lam Lam, do you want to be my disciple? Hearing this sentence, Vu Lam Lam immediately felt dumbfounded. They were so busy talking that they didn't know that they were being followed outside by Van Tri Vu and his two juniors. Van Tri Vu frowned and asked. This kid is So Min. They were sitting at a table outside, and could only see but not hear what they were talking to each other. Inside, Vu Lam Lam angrily pinched So Min's cheek and shouted. Who wants to be your disciple? Outside, the junior asked Van Tri Vu. Young master, do you want to teach this kid here? Van Tri Vu shook his head. No need. Making a move in front of Vu Lam Lam can easily turn awkward, he ordered. Follow them early. Wait until he is alone to attack. He also ended with one sentence. If he doesn't have any skills, he will directly chop it up and feed it to the dogs. The two juniors immediately obeyed and stood up. They silently followed So Min and Vu Lam Lam. The other two were engrossed in teasing each other on the street without knowing anything. Suddenly Vu Lam Lam pointed at So Min's eyes and said, You have dark circles. So Min wiped his eyes and reassured. It's a small matter. Just get some sleep. Hearing that, Vu Lam Lam looked worried and instructed. Then you go home first. I will tell Grandpa to quickly handle the Tran family's matter. Or should I drive you? So Min waved his hand and refused and said, No need, I know about it. Having said that, he quickly ran onto the bus and waved goodbye to Vu Lam Lam. As he got into the car, So Min thought to himself, I can't let him take me home. Senior sister Luke is sleeping on her bed. Watching So Min leave, Vu Lam Lam thought to himself. Even though he said it so gently, her face clearly showed 2 words of worry for So Min. She thought to herself, defeating the Tran family is definitely a life or death situation, and she gave us resources. Probably only So Min would do such a thing. Immediately after that, she called her grandfather. Hello, grandfather? It's me. Vu Lao Jia on the other end of the line picked up the phone to answer. Hearing Vu Lam Lam's words, Vu Lao Jia, who was drinking tea, looked puzzled. Using the Tran family? Now they are like the sun during the day. Are you crazy, kid? But when he heard Vu Lam Lam's announcement, Vu Lao Jia was startled. Had the head of the Tran family and all the masters been dealt with by So Min? On this side, So Min got off the bus and went home. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and sighed. Everything is finally resolved. You can sleep comfortably now. Suddenly, someone pulled out a knife from somewhere. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent as they looked at So Min. They were very numerous and stood in front of him, surrounding him, causing So Min to exclaim in confusion. Oh, The surrounding people saw that something was wrong and immediately told each other to run away. They told each other to run into the house and close the door tightly. So-min asked them with a serious face. "Whose people are you?" they shouted. "You don't need to know." Then they rushed towards So-min. So-min smiled coldly and replied, "I just broke through the Chi-Hai realm. You guys came at the wrong time." As he spoke, he began to channel his spiritual energy. A moment later, all of the royal family's henchmen were lying on the ground at So-min's feet. So-min sat on their backs and asked, "Now we can talk. Who sent you here?" The leader's face was swollen after being beaten and he quickly confessed. "We are from the Tan Exe gang nearby. There is a big brother who gave me money and told me to deal with you. He didn't say who he was, and we didn't ask much." He glanced at So-min and continued, "We must act ethically this time." So-min gave him another punch on the back and threatened, "If you don't talk, you won't have any teeth." This guy held his cheek in pain and quickly said, "We really don't know, big brother. Even if you beat us to death, you still won't know." Seeing that these guys seemed to be telling the truth, So-min thought to himself, "It seems like I really don't know." He jumped down from their backs and warned, "Get out! Don't let me see you guys again." So the thugs quickly helped each other run away, not forgetting to thank So-min for sparing their lives. So-min looked at them and said to himself, "Some of the big influential families in Zhangqiao have already been dealt with by me. The rest are only the second-ranked Vong family, and the leader has never appeared." So engrossed in thought, So-min did not know that there was someone watching him from afar. This person is Vong Tri-Vu's junior. He trembled, quickly texted the young master, and thought to himself, "This kid is too strong, we must quickly inform the young master." That evening, Vong Tri-Vu sat drinking and reviewed the video that his junior had recorded when So-min attacked. He watched the video attentively and thought to himself, he can release his power and control it at will. This strength is exactly the same as her and her father. This department of Min is indeed difficult. A junior sitting next to him immediately said, "This kid is very powerful. No wonder the Vu family became friends with him." The junior then asked, "What should we do next?" Vong Tri-Vu calmly replied, "There's no need to rush. We have two people like this in our Vong family. It's not like the Vu family doesn't know that." The junior immediately wondered, "You said even though Vu Lam Lam likes this kid, the Vu family won't let them be together?" Vong Tri-Vu immediately smiled and said, "That's right. A business marriage can bring benefits to an entire family. Just a brat with no family background, how can he cause trouble?" Right. While drinking, he thought, "Our royal family is what it is today thanks to the martial arts strength of father and aunt, suppressing the whole of Zhangqiao. Except for that old-fashioned old man in the number one family, there is no one else. Who dares to provoke my family?" He slammed the wine glass on the table, shattering it, and asserted, "No matter how strong this kid is, if dad and aunt take action, he will have to die." After that, he and his subordinates left. The owner of the pub immediately greeted the guests. "Please go leisurely." After the two men left, the bar owner cleaned up the spilled wine on the table. The owner of the pub is none other than Chu Hao, who at the beginning of the story was treated favorably by So-min and asked to become his junior. Chu Hao saw a photo of So-min on his phone named Vong Tri-Vu and wondered, "Is that photo that kid looked at just now So Jia-min?" Immediately after that, Chu Hao went to the house to find So-min and announced, "Master So, what I saw is real. In his hand, that boy holds your photo." After hearing this, So-min yawned loudly. Chu Hao continued, "It's obviously disadvantageous for you." After announcing the news, Chu Hao seemed quite happy in his heart, thinking to himself, "Hee, this time I have accomplished a great feat. When the So family is happy, maybe they will teach me a few tricks." But contrary to Chu Hao's thoughts, So-min scratched his ear and said, "Oh, I know. It's okay, you go home first." Before Chu Hao left, So-min asked further, "Oh, that's right. Who are those two people, do you know?" Chu Hao immediately turned his head and replied, "I don't know. They are very quiet. Besides saying something, the Vu family doesn't say anything else." So-min immediately nodded and said, "Okay. Thank you." Chu Hao left and closed the door. So-min's expression immediately changed. He opened his eyes wide and looked forward and thought, "Your Majesty, is it the prince who wants to marry Vu Lam Lam?" Meanwhile, at the Vu family, Vu Lam Lam was drinking tea with his grandfather. Vu Lao Jia is comfortably sitting and enjoying a cup of hot tea. Vu Lam Lam saw his grandfather so calm and worried. "Grandpa, for such a big thing like marrying the Tran family, is it okay for only second uncle to take someone?" Vu Lao Jia calmly replied, "Of course not." Hearing that, Vu Lam Lam turned pale. "So, aren't you afraid?" Vu Lao Jia put down his teacup and said, "What are you afraid of? Your father personally took action. Your second uncle just came to help him kill it." Hearing this, Vu Lam Lam was extremely surprised. "Really?" As soon as he finished speaking, the homeowner returned home. The head of the Vu family, also Vu Lam Lam's father, is named Du Truyanchi. His appearance exudes dignity but is equally cold. As soon as he sat down, Vu Lam Lam cried out, "Dad! Why didn't you tell me when you were here?" Vu Lam Lam immediately poured tea for his father. Vu Lao Jia turned to ask his son, "How are things going with the Tran family?" Du Chuanqi took a sip of tea and replied, "It's done. When Lao Ni came, they were a bit opposed, but when I came, they obediently cooperated." Hearing that, old Jia Jia smiled and stroked his beard. "Well, not bad. This time, thanks to So Min, the Vu family's power has increased a lot." Vu Lam Lam also immediately stood up and followed. "That's right, Dad. Marrying the Truong family and the Tran family is all thanks to So Min. With his help, in the future I won't have to look at the Vang family's face anymore." Vu Lam Lam was extremely excited. Her heart felt like she was opening a flag. Her grandfather was helping So Min reveal his face. "In front of my father, I must grasp this opportunity and take the opportunity to cancel the engagement with the royal family." But contrary to his daughter's thoughts, Vu Truyen Tri coldly replied, "It's not as simple as you think." Vu Lam Lam looked puzzled. "But we were originally ranked third in Zhang Chao. Now we have 2 more families, shouldn't that be bad?" Vu Truyen Tri angrily slammed the teacup on the table and shouted, "Innocent!" Vu Lam Lam was confused. "But..." Before he could speak, Vu Truyen Tri ordered, "Invite So Min to come here tomorrow. Dad wants to meet him." Vu Lam Lam heard that and was extremely happy. "Dad, have you figured it out?" Vu Truyen Tri stood up, crossed his arms and said, "He helped our Vu family with such a big thing. As the head of the Vu family, I must personally thank him." Vu Lam Lam immediately ran to hug his father's hand and happily replied, "Leave it to me. Tomorrow I will definitely bring So Min here." Vu Truyen Tri immediately nodded. "Okay." Seeing her father out the door, Vu Lam Lam waved. "Good night, Dad." Vu Lao Jia seemed to understand his niece's feelings. He looked at father and son and thought to himself, "I'm afraid this won't be that smooth. But our eldest daughter has to get married." That evening, So Min was sleeping soundly when his phone rang right above his head. Sleepily, he reached for the phone. Eyes still closed tightly, So Min put the phone to his earpiece. "Hello?" Suddenly he was startled and woke up when he heard Vu Lam Lam say her father wanted to see him. The next morning, Nam Lin was brushing her teeth when she turned her head to look outside and saw So Min sitting blankly. She asked, "What's wrong? You're already stupid so early in the morning?" So Min immediately turned back and replied, "Dude, Vu Lam Lam said her father wants to meet you." Nam Lin went back inside to brush his teeth and said, "You helped the Vu family with such a big deal, he probably just wanted to thank you." So Min sat outside and sighed, continuing, "But yesterday someone from the Vang family made things difficult for me. If I and the Vu family continue to interact, I'm afraid it will be disadvantageous for the Vu family." Seeing So Min say that, Nam Lin immediately looked out and exclaimed, "My little junior brother, you've become a little more understanding of people's situation. Are you really the wild little junior brother from before?" So Min sighed. "Senior sister Luke, I'm talking about the main thing." "You're laughing at me again," Nam Lin said while brushing her teeth. "That nickname was given by 7 sisters, not by me. I think you can be bold." She approached and patted So Min's head and reminded, "Anyway, if you want to establish a sect for our 7 Saints sect in Zhang Chao, there must be a powerful force here to support you to benefit you." Suddenly, a loud car horn sounded, followed by a familiar voice. "So Min, I'm here to pick you up." They both looked outside and saw Vu Lam Lam below waving at them. His face sweated when he saw her. Below, Vu Lam Lam saw Nam Lin and felt a little jealous. She frowned and asked, "Who is that girl?" So Min then waved to Nam Lin. "Senior sister Luke, I'm going out." Recognizing Vu Lam Lam's face, Nam Lin thought to herself, "The little girl hasn't officially met me yet." Looking at that expression, she must have misunderstood. But then remembering the time before on the mountain, So Min carried her. Nam Lin blushed. But it didn't seem like a misunderstanding. So Min got into Vu Lam Lam's car and fastened his seatbelt. He said, "Let's go. We're leaving." Vu Lam Lam was originally a little jealous when he saw Nam Lin with So Min. She frowned. Her eyes seemed sharp. Vu Lam Lam stepped on the accelerator pedal hard. The car immediately sped away at lightning speed, startling So Min. The car almost hit an old man walking on the road. The old man shouted angrily, "Vu, what kind of car are you driving?" Vu Lam Lam's heart is filled with jealousy. She questioned So Min, "Who is the girl in your room? We were together early in the morning. Did she stay there overnight?" So Min quickly clarified, "She is senior sister Luke. What I said before was to find medicine for senior sister Luke. Furthermore, she once saved us in the Truong family." Vu Lam Lam heard that and immediately thought, "I misunderstood him." Her jealousy was dispelled. She said, "So that's it." It was So Min's turn to ask, "That's right, why did your father come to me today?" Vu Lam Lam happily replied, "Of course, thank you for helping our Vu family so much." Having said that, Vu Lam Lam was dreaming in her heart that her father would look at So Min. So Min saw Vu Lam Lam's expression change, and was extremely confused. Why did his expression change? My daughter's thoughts were truly incomprehensible. A moment later, the two returned to the Vu family. At the beginning of the meeting, Vu Truyen Tri thanked So Min. Mr. So Min, such a young age is truly a powerful young man. This time, the affairs of the Truong family and the Tran family are all thanks to you. Inviting So Min to have tea, Vu Truyen Tri continued. You are grateful to our Vu family. But Vu Truyen Tri, I have an unreasonable request, So Min gently replied. Uncle Vu, just say it. Looking at his father in such deep contemplation, Vu Lam Lam's heart showed anticipation. Could it be that he also saw So Min's limitless future and wanted to proactively associate himself with him? But contrary to his daughter's expectations, Vu Truyen Tri frowned and suggested. If you really want the best for the Vu family, please stay away from Vu Lam Lam. Like a thunderbolt, both So Min and Vu Lam Lam were surprised. Vu Lam Lam immediately wondered loudly. Dad, what are you talking about? What would be good for the Vu family if we stayed away for a bit? Vu Truyen Tri continued to explain. Our family Vu Lam Lam and the Vong family's son have a marriage contract. Being close to a strange man is not good for future reputation. So Min lowered his face, his heart full of thoughts. Before Vu Lam Lam called me, the Vu family had already anticipated this day. This is not a thank you party at all, but a hongmen banquet. Vu Lam Lam stood up and asserted. I don't want to marry into the royal family. Vu Truyen Tri shouted loudly. Shut up! When Mr. So and I were talking, what happened to you? Then he turned to ask So Min. I wonder if Mr. So can help me with this? So Min coldly replied. I already knew that Vu Lam Lam and the Vong family had a marriage contract. I know more clearly what you want to do, Vu Truyen Tri nodded. If Mr. So is such a smart person, then I don't need to say more. Vu Lam Lam still tried to protest strongly. Engagement. In my eyes, there is only a marriage contract, and I have never asked you whether you agree or not. Vu Truyen Tri did not listen to what his daughter said. He ordered the servant to take Vu Lam Lam to his room. Vu Lam Lam angrily stood up and left. No need to send me. I'll go home myself. Before leaving, Vu Lam Lam said to So Min. I'm sorry, So Min. I've caused trouble for you again. So Min smiled and replied. Vu Lam Lam, you go home first. I will handle it well. After Vu Lam Lam left, So Min stood up and said. Mr. Du, I have no obligation to do what you tell me to do. Vu Lam Lam's future should not be controlled by you. Because so, it's very difficult to obey. Hearing So Min say that, Vu Truyen Tri's face changed a bit. He immediately made another proposal. As long as you agree to leave Vu Lam Lam, I can divide half of the Tran family's assets to you, in your name. So Min laughed. If I really wanted money, would it be easy for the Vu family to take over the assets of the Truong and Tran families? He turned his head and waved to Vu Truyen Tri and said, Power and wealth, once people are bewitched by these two things, even their relatives can turn into pawns. Letting So Min leave, Vu Truyen Tri continued to suggest. Mr. So can think again. Within 3 days, my promise will take effect. Suddenly Vu Lao Jia appeared from nowhere and spoke. Little friend So Min, long time no see. So Min turned around and asked. Grandpa Vu, are you also coming to advise me to stay a little further away from Vu Lam Lam? But Vu Lao Jia waved his hand and smiled. I'm no longer the head of the house. I just want my only granddaughter to be a little happy. She's not happy if she leaves you. What else do I advise? So Min immediately felt confused. What do you mean? Vu Lao Jia stroked his beard and reminded. This old man also abandoned the person he loved when he was young because of this. He remembered the old memories and sighed and continued. I'm afraid you will also give up because of these things, like an old man like me, regretting it for the rest of your life. Hearing this sentence, So Min immediately thought, that's right. Disciples with good roots like Vu Lam Lam are truly not easy to find. Seeing So Min deep in thought, old man Vu continued. If you like it, then do it boldly. Don't pay attention to the nonsense. So Min seemed to see that Vu Lao Jia seemed to have misunderstood. He immediately replied confusedly. Our ways of thinking are a bit different. He nodded to greet him and said, Thank you, Lao Jia Vu. I know what to do. Watching So Min leave, old Master Vu stroked his beard and thought. This son of mine really has no eyes to see. This kid So Min's future is not any smaller than the princess. At the same time, at the royal villa, Vong Tri Vu was sitting and talking with his father and aunt about So Min. The head of the royal family, Vong Chiu Quan, looked suspicious. Son, are you telling the truth? Vong Tri Vu asserted. I have found someone to investigate So Min. It is truly the Chi Hai realm. Vong Chiu Quan immediately frowned and replied. The Sea realm. The Vu family is probably wavering now. After all, once you decide to fight against my Vong family, there is no way to retreat. Sitting next to him is his younger sister, the second in command of the Vong Truong family. She laughed and said, If they are shaken, then let's quickly help them calm down. She gave a calculating smile and continued. Tri Vu, this good child, this time brought back important news. Vong Chiu Quan also agreed with his sister's opinion. What your aunt said was not wrong. If the Vu family is hesitant, then we will speak first to rob people. Tomorrow I will personally go to the Vu family and set a wedding date for you. But Vong Truong, who was next to him, interrupted. It's just a small Vu family. Why do you need me to go personally? It's enough for me to go, Vang Tru Quan frowned. Okay. At the same time, Nam Lin and Kai Ham Swang were discussing with each other. Kai Ham Swang asked again. Have you really thought it through? Nam Lin took a sip of tea and replied. If you don't think carefully, what will you do? So Min will soon have to confront the Vang family. At that time, can you still hide it? Hearing that, Kai Ham Swang sighed and said, I didn't expect that the little junior brother would grow up faster than we imagined. The story of fifth senior sister betraying the master, we originally wanted to keep him a secret for a while longer, Nam Lin growled. What fifth senior sister? She doesn't deserve it. She was bribed by merchants, and she also used 7 Saint Tong's tricks to aid the enemy. I feel disgusted when I think about it. Knowing that he couldn't hide it from So Min, Kai Ham Swang immediately asked. But I have to say it. Who will tell the little junior brother? Hearing this question, the two began to push each other. Nam Lin said, You have a meticulous mind, you still have to say it. Kai Ham Swang denied. You act cautiously, it's still the older sister who says it. So the two kept pushing each other. This person tells that person to go talk, that person tells this person to go talk. A moment later at Vu Jia, Vu Truyan Tri put a letter on the table and announced. This place is the mainstay of my Vu family. This is an invitation from the Vang family. Looking at the red envelope on the table, Vu Truyan Tri said. Their royal family will come to our Vu family tomorrow to discuss the engagement of Vang Tri Vu and Vu Lam Lam. Vu Truyan Min immediately added. It says it's a discussion, but it's clearly an announcement. Another person in the meeting, martial arts president Vu Jia Duchin Fong, asked. Does the invitation say who is coming from the royal family? Vu Truyan Tri thoughtfully replied. Second royal family. Van Truan. That evening, So Min was running towards the park with a haughty look. As he ran, he wondered, it's so late, you Vu Lam Lam still called me to come to the park. Still need to talk face to face. Something definitely happened. Arriving there, So Min looked surprised when he saw Vu Lam Lam. Vu Lam Lam is currently sad and seems quiet. Seeing her sitting so sad, So Min asked. Vu Lam Lam, what happened? Vu Lam Lam replied with a tense face. So Min, my father keeps forcing me to marry into the Vang family. Furthermore, tomorrow the Vang family will come to discuss the marriage with my family. So Min gently sat down next to Vu Lam Lam and asked. What do you think? Vu Lam Lam immediately shouted. I don't agree. If they keep forcing me, I will die. So Min calmly reassured. When something happens you want to die, so your life is not enough. You have to think of a solution first. Vu Lam Lam glanced at So Min with a sad expression and said. The royal family over there is in a hurry. No one can change this matter, not even grandfather. So Min looked up at the sky and said. Then deal with them. Vu Lam Lam shook his head in frustration. That is the Vang family, the overwhelming force in Zhangchao. There is even their own martial arts sect, the Golden Daoman. So Min raised his face to the sky and said solemnly. I heard that the Vang family was founded on martial arts, ruthless and decisive in everything. The strength of martial arts suppressed the heroes in Zhangchao province. But my seventh sect will not obey anyone. He plucked a leaf from the tree and continued. I want to establish a sect. Then I want the seventh sect to become the leading sect in Zhangchao, even Hoa. He turned to look Vu Lam Lam straight in the face and continued. I help you not only because you are my friend, but also for my own purpose. Vu Lam Lam noticed the difference in So Min and asked. So Min, you don't seem like before. So Min nodded and confirmed. People will change. So many things have happened along this road. If you don't change, you won't be able to keep up with the times. Suddenly, So Min's phone rang. He picked up the phone to look, and saw that it was Seventh Sister calling. So Min quickly picked up the phone. Hello? Seventh Sister. On the other end of the phone, Kai Ham Swang said, So Min, please come to my house. Senior sister, and I have something to tell you. So Min felt confused and asked again. Can't we talk on the phone? Before he could finish speaking, Kai Ham Swang turned off the phone. Seeing his senior sister so hastily announce it, So Min thought to himself. The cup is really fast. He immediately stood up and said to Vu Lam Lam. I have something to do first. Trust me, wait calmly first, don't act hastily. I will definitely find a solution to break this arrangement. Vu Lam Lam quickly asked. But they said they want to come tomorrow to discuss the matter, what should I do? So Min immediately replied. Calm down, observe and wait for the opportunity. Watching So Min quickly run away, Vu Lam Lam smiled and thought. Calmly observe and wait for an opportunity. This stupid boy has become smart. Her face turned red. She covered her face and thought. Moreover, it's even more attractive. At this time, So Min also arrived at Kai Ham Swang's house. Opening the door for him was Tan Yen. So Min immediately asked. Are you looking for me for something? Tan Yen replied confusedly. I don't know either. But the looks on both of their faces are very unsightly. Don't talk nonsense. So Min walked in and saw the two sisters looking out the window thoughtfully. Seeing that the situation seemed tense, So Min's sweat dropped and thought to himself. Is this what you call an unsightly face? This is clearly a major disaster. Slowly approaching, So-min hesitantly asked. Senior Sister Luke, Senior Sister 7, what are you looking for me for? Kai Ham Swang immediately glanced at Nam Lin and signaled. According to what was discussed, each person has a sentence. Kai Ham Swang was the first to speak. She said, you must already know a little about the matter of 5th Senior Sister. Hearing that, So-min was suddenly startled and asked. 5th Senior Sister? 6th Senior Sister has mentioned it before. Isn't she at the Vong family now? Kai Ham Swang immediately asked again. Yes. But do you know why she is in the royal family? Nam Lin also added. I told you before that someone betrayed the 7th sect. So-min immediately felt guilty. Treason? Could it be? At this time, both Kai Ham Swang and Nam Lin said in unison. That's right. It's my 5th Senior Sister. She betrayed her master. Hearing that, So-min angrily shouted. How is that possible? I'm going to the prince now. I'll ask her clearly. Kai Ham Swang continued. My 5th Senior Sister is a distinguished guest that the Vong family has raised. Because the prince wanted to be the only one in the Jiangzhou martial arts world, he relied on the medicine that his 5th Senior Sister had prepared. So-min was shocked to receive the information. He asked again. For the sake of the royal family, the 5th Senior Sister refined the medicine to break the realm? The first prohibition of the 5th Master was to not allow outsiders to refine the medicine to upgrade their cultivation level, right? So-min's face darkened. His hands clenched tightly, shaking with anger. In his heart, he wondered, 5th Senior Sister absolutely cannot easily become a traitor. What is this all about? Seeing that So-min's face looked very bad, Nam Lin turned to ask Kai Ham Swang. Did we say it at the wrong time? Kai Ham Swang immediately replied. I don't know, but the little junior brother seems to have been hit very hard. At this time, So-min suddenly shouted. Okay. Then there is another reason to destroy the Vong family. Hearing So-min's words, Nam Lin and Kai Ham Swang were both startled. Kai Ham Swang was surprised. Didn't I hear wrong? Nam Lin also asked. Do you want to eliminate the prince? So-min nodded to confirm. That's right. I have thought carefully. I want to accept the only heir of the Vu family, Vu Lam Lam, as a disciple. The Vu family is now forcing Vu Lam Lam into the royal family. This is the best opportunity. Thinking of 5th Senior Sister, So-min asserted. I don't believe that 5th Senior Sister will betray the master. She must have suffered unspeakably. Eliminating the Vong Jia can save 5th Senior Sister. After hearing this, Kai Ham Swang felt puzzled. Confronting a big figure like the Vong family just because you want to have a disciple? Nam Lin also added. This is not worth it, So-min immediately replied. Previously, Senior Sister Luke once taught me that if you want to establish a sect in Jiangchao, it is best to receive the encouragement of the wealthy people here. So-min's expression became serious. His eyes shone with determination. Now my small goal is to make the Vu family the #1 sect in Jiangchao. To make that Tan sect the #1 sect in Jiangchao. After listening to So-min's words, Kai Ham Swang also nodded in agreement. If the head of the Vu family joins the sect in the future, then the Vu family and our 7 Saints sect will be tied together. That is also a good move. Nam Lin turned to the smiling So-min and asked. Why did your stupid boy suddenly become so smart? At this time, Tan Yen was also bringing tea. Seeing the happy looks of the three, she wondered. Even though she didn't know what they were talking about, she always felt that this was something out of the ordinary. The next morning at Vu Jia, a group of people were waiting at the door to welcome the royal car that had just arrived. Stepping out of the car, Van Truan burst out laughing. Master Vu personally welcomed me. This little girl is truly awe-inspiring. Old Jia Vu politely greeted and said. The head of the Vu family has been waiting in the living room for a long time. Van Truan showed his superiority, not bothering to greet Master Vu, but coldly walked past him and said, Then I'll ask Master Vu to lead the way. When the Vu family members saw this woman's attitude, they were angry and thought to themselves, what does this woman mean? Consider our old master a servant to guide the way? That arrogant appearance really makes others hate him. At this time, at the Vong family's house, So-min broke in. He looked inside and said to himself, This is where the royal family lives. The 5 senior sisters are definitely inside. He decided to go there himself to scout the situation first. Looking at the splendid and magnificent scenery of the royal family, So-min marveled. Is this the royal family? In a place with an inch of land like Jiangtan, there is an area this big. But then he remembered something. So-min thought to himself, I have never seen 5th Senior Sister. Luke's Senior Sister and 7th Senior Sister did not give me a photo. He squinted his eyes and said to himself, You can only judge based on true energy. You have to be a little careful, you can't be discovered. At this time, inside, Van Chuquan was leisurely walking with 2 of his subordinates. They came to a small room. The door immediately opened. The person who opened the door was a female servant. The girl said, Homeowner, she is resting. Van Chuquan respectfully replied. It's okay. Then I'll wait here for it to wake up. A subordinate accompanying him immediately turned to ask his colleague, Brother, today is my first day at work. Is there anyone in the house? Even the homeowner must be so respectful? The colleague immediately turned and replied. If you want to live a long life, you should stop being so careless. At this time in the room, the female maid came in and reported to the person inside. Miss, the homeowner said he is outside the door waiting for you to wake up. The lady that the maid is serving has quite beautiful red eyes. Looks like a beauty. But unfortunately she is blind. The servant continued. It seems that if you don't see him today, he won't go either. This beauty has red eyes and white hair. This is So Min's fifth senior sister, Lan Hinni. Lan Hinni closed the book and replied. Then let him wait a little longer. The female maid immediately approached to help Hinni up, but she said there was no need. Seeing Hinni struggling to find something, the female maid immediately asked. Miss, why don't you want to meet the homeowner today? Hinni searched for books and answered. The third young master of the Vang family wants to marry the eldest lady of the Vu family. Today, it was originally the head of the family who came to the Vu family in person. But now he is standing in front of the room door. What do you say he came here for? The female servant shook her head. I'm young and don't know. Hinni immediately explained. He wanted to ask for my medicine. He wanted the medicine to help their royal family become stronger. The royal family basically looks down on the Vu family, so they would rather let the family head waste time with me. Hearing that, the female maid immediately expressed admiration. But isn't this a good thing? This proves that the young lady's ability is very great. Even the homeowner does not dare to be careless. Hinni immediately replied. This is not a good thing. Your Majesty is grateful to me. I have already reported it before. Finished, she turned her head away, looking tired, and continued. I'm not a bird in their cage, and I shouldn't stay here forever. Speaking of this, Hinni sighed and thought. But I have made the seventh sect lose face, and there is no way to return to the master anymore. In the end, where is the place for me to live? Suddenly, a stream of green air flew into the room. Hinni was startled when she felt that. She immediately recognized that this true energy belonged to the Seven Saints sect. Immediately she turned around and ordered the servant. Quickly go and inform the homeowner that we won't welcome guests today. Let him come tomorrow. The female servant immediately obeyed. Hinni realized that someone she knew was coming and immediately thought to herself, since losing her sight, her other senses have become much more sensitive. This true energy is definitely a member of the Seven Saints sect. Can't be wrong. After being away for so long, why did you come to find me now? Is it a senior sister or a junior sister? Thinking it was the master coming, Hinni was startled, showing fear. Why did the true energy of the Seven Saints sect fly here? We have to talk about So Min again. At this time, somewhere else in the Vang family, So Min seemed to have lost his way. I realized I was going through this road again. Pale, So Min thought to himself. I'm not lost, am I? At this moment, the royal subordinates discovered So Min. They cried out. What are you doing? Without delay, So Min released a series of needles at them. The needles were stuck straight into the neck and chest of the other two men. Looking at them unconscious, So Min thought to himself. Looks like we can't walk around openly like this anymore. Since there's no way to find it, then I have to let fifth sister know that I'm here. So he moved his true energy and thought, after stepping into the Chi-Hai realm, he would be able to blend his true energy into the air. If fifth senior sister were here, she would definitely feel it. So Min suddenly began to feel the true energy of the Seven Saints sect passed down by the fifth sister. He jumped onto the roof in the direction of the incoming air. Following the path of true energy, So Min quickly jumped on the roof to the fifth senior sister's place. At the same time, outside Hinni's room, Vang Tru Quan asked the female maid. Didn't see you today? Miss Lan, do you have any other urgent matters? The female servant bowed her head and said. I don't understand this either. So Vang Chiu Quan turned around and left, and said. Okay. Then Mr. Vang will come to visit again tomorrow. As Vang Tru Quan walked, he glanced back at Hinni's room with a calculating look on his face. Lately, the situation in Zhangchao is windy and cloudy. Miss Lan is our royal family's biggest support in controlling martial arts. No one is allowed to take it away. At this time, Hinni is spreading her true energy even more into the air. She opened the window wide to let the wind carry the air away. Hinni secretly said in her heart, if they were really people of the Seven Saints sect, they would definitely feel it. Immediately, So Min jumped into the room. Seeing Hinni, So Min immediately asked, Are you the fifth sister? Hinni was startled when she heard her son's voice. She wondered, the sound of a man. Sounds never heard before. Who is he? He calls me senior sister? Then she suddenly realized something. Immediately she spoke up and asked again. Are you So Min? So Min saw that the 5 senior sisters didn't seem to see him, so he waved his hand in front of her to check. Hinni still tried to ask. Are you So Min? Answer me, So Min immediately replied. I am So Min. 5th senior sister, what's wrong with your eyes? Confirming that it was So Min, Hinni's eyes suddenly went wild. She turned her head and replied sadly. I'm blind. I'm not worthy of being a disciple of the Seven Saints sect. I'm not your 5th senior sister. I don't have that qualification. So Min immediately wondered. Fifth senior sister, what exactly happened? Hinni stepped back and replied. It's because I'm not good at learning the art. It's because I'm planning on losing the holy sect. It's because I'm at fault with my master. She kept moving backwards until her heels touched the chair leg behind her. Hinni lost her momentum and fell backwards. So Min immediately rushed forward and shouted. Fifth senior sister, be careful. He quickly caught Hinni and hugged her. Hinni emotionally asked again. Are you really So Min? Then she began to speak. I remember when you were so young, So Min immediately said. It's me. I came to find you. Senior sister Luke and senior sister Seven said you betrayed the teacher. Is it true? Hinni turned her head away, not daring to answer. Suddenly, someone kicked in the door. His feet stepped inside. He spoke up and said, Where do I say such a strange true energy comes from? It's Vong Tru Quan. He discovered So Min's true energy. He threatened him. Boy, your courage is too big. You dare to touch my royal family's people. Hinni immediately popped her head out to clarify. Master Vong, you misunderstood. He is. Without letting Hinni finish speaking, So Min turned back and affirmed, Fifth senior sister, I have also reached the Qi High realm. No need to be afraid of him. So Min and Vong Tru Quan both flashed murderous looks at each other. Both used their true energy and threw their fists at each other. One green gas and one red gas collided right in Hinni's room. Vong Tru Quan smiled smugly. Don't you really think you can beat me with that one hand? So Min immediately stopped and did not fight anymore. On this side, Hinni continuously clarified. Your Majesty, my lord. He is my junior brother So Min. Please don't make things difficult for him. Hearing the name So Min, Vong Tru Quan immediately stopped and said. So you are So Min? Out of respect for Miss Lan, you leave now. I will not pursue you. So Min immediately turned to hold Hinni's hand and said. Fifth senior sister, let's go together. But Hinni took the initiative to withdraw her hand and refused. Your Majesty is grateful to me. Furthermore, I am sorry to my master. I no longer have the face to return to that saint sect. Then she told So Min to quickly leave. So Min did not say much more. He coldly walked past her and said. Fifth senior sister, I will come again. He also carefully reminded. No matter what happens, seventh sect is your home. Then he jumped away and disappeared. Hearing this sentence from So Min, Hinni's eyes filled with tears, thinking to herself, is that Tantong still my home? On this side, Vong Tru Vu spoke up. Miss Lan, recently something big happened in Zhangchao. Please don't leave the Vong family. Hinni felt So Min's breath getting farther and farther away. She was probably safe. She replied to Vong Tru Quan. Thank you for your concern. Vong Tru Vu then turned and left, not forgetting to instruct the female servant. Take good care of Miss Lan. If anything happens, you must notify me. Leaving Hinni's room, Vong Tru Quan immediately changed his face. He gritted his teeth angrily. This guy So Min. He dares to infiltrate my royal family alone. We must get rid of him quickly. A moment later, there was a knock on Kai Ham Swang's door. Tan Yen quickly ran to open it. She opened the door and saw So Min stumbling in. He leaned against the wall looking quite tired. Tan Yen closed the door and asked worriedly. So Min, what's wrong with you? So Min coughed up blood for the first time in the series. He wiped the blood from his mouth and said, That Wang family has courage. Tan Yen quickly ran over, worried. Are you vomiting blood? So Min waved his hand to reassure. It's okay. It's just that your true energy is a little damaged. It's okay to recuperate for a while. At this time, Kai Ham Swang came out. She was also worried. What's going on? Who hurt you? So Min sat down and replied. I have come to the Vong family, to fight with the Vong family's head. Hearing that, Kai Ham Swang immediately reproached. It's really confusing. Tru Quan is a famous martial arts expert for a long time. Even if I wanted to overthrow the king, I couldn't directly confront him. So Min sat cultivating true energy to recover from his injury and explained. My goal is not him. I'm going to see fifth senior sister. Kai Ham Swang looked puzzled. What's the point of meeting that person who betrayed his master? So Min immediately replied. I feel that fifth senior sister seems to have a hard time saying something. That's right, seventh senior sister. Do you know why fifth senior sister's eyes can't see? Hearing this, Kai Ham Swang was startled. What did you say? She can't see anymore? Then Kai Ham Swang began to recount. Before, I only knew that she was in the royal family, betrayed the orders of the seven saints, and helped outsiders. As for the rest, I don't know. What's more, she already broke off relations with us. So Min frowned and thought thoughtfully. It seems that fifth senior sister's hidden feelings are definitely related to her eyes. Kai Ham Swang interrupted and announced important news. Let's put this matter aside first. Third young master Vong Zan has already come to the Vong family to ask for her hand in marriage. I want to make the Vu family waver, afraid that I will have to leave. A little early, So Min calmly replied. Calmly observe. The head of the Vong family has not personally come forward in this matter. The Vu family cannot help but be angry. Meanwhile at Vu Jia, Old Master Vu politely invited Vong Tru on. Miss Vam, this is the living room of my Vu family. The homeowner has been waiting there for a long time. Looking at the Vu family's living room, Van Truan looked disdainful. The living room is really too stingy. The Vu family is also very frugal. Elder Vu's face was a bit uncomfortable and he replied. Indeed, my Vu family lives frugally, not lavishly, but King Truan still refused to give up. She continued to attack. When it comes to luxury, there must also be capital for that luxury. When the Vu family's family saw her attitude, they were also annoyed, whispering to each other. It's really too much to oppress people. How can there be any resemblance to courtship? That arrogant look is familiar, come on. My Vu family still dares to be so arrogant. Vu Truyan Tri then appeared, cleared his throat and shouted. Everyone shut up! He sat down and smiled and invited. Sister Wang, welcome to visit. Please sit down. Let's discuss the marriage of your nephew and my daughter. Van Truan flashed a smile pretending to be friendly and said. There's no need to sit. I'm here to announce the event time. Our king has already decided. A week later is good to celebrate the wedding. After making the announcement, she turned around and said. The word has been delivered. I'll go home now. Du Qinfang stood up and said. Second family head Vang, marriage is a big event between the two families. How can you make such a unilateral decision? Van Truan turned his head, looked with disdain in his eyes and asked. I thought it was someone else, but it turned out to be Mr. Du. Have you really broken through the Truchi realm now? Du Qinfang responded. The matter at hand has nothing to do with the realm of martial arts. Van Truan's eyes began to radiate murderous aura, staring at Du Qinfang. Then she quickly rushed forward and strangled him. The Vu family quickly shouted. Quickly let him go. What do you want to do? Van Truan pulled Du Qinfang close to him and threatened. My royal family only has